Right, all good.
Good? All right. Welcome, everyone. Let's call to order. It's 8 o'clock, right on time. Welcome back from a couple of months break. Nice to see you all here. All right. First order of business, the Metro Vancouver Transit Police and the Police Board respects Indigenous nations within Metro Vancouver and acknowledges all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people for their continued resilience, sustainable stewardship, and as active members of the community for generations to come. We recognize that in planning and managing the region's transportation system, we do have a role to play in supporting reconciliation with Indigenous people. All right, consent agenda is first item up. Do we have any polls from consent? Is he still on the line, by the way?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's Bill. My apologies for not able to attend in person. I'd like to poll item 1.1G, which is the mandate letter to be pulled from consent. Thank you.
Okay. Any other polls from consent? Nope. All right, so can I get a motion to approve consent less G? Thanks, Murray. All in favor? Okay. Great, let's talk about G. Go ahead, Bill.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. The mandate letter, of course, is a very important document that steers us on the process. And I just wanted to, for us to have an opportunity just to ensure that we're on the right path length, and want to see if there's if the chief would like to add anything to the mandate letter with respect to whether there are any changes or any priorities that needs to be reshift in our 2025 operating plan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So for 2025, certainly continuing to move forward with the REVO project with the site funding will be an absolute priority. And I think that's something we've reported in many different board meetings, and we look forward to that continued work as we move forward. Certainly within the mandate letters, a focus on mental health, area of priority, repeat offenders. We are looking into 2025 and enhancing and increasing our support that we dedicate to the mental health liaison position with a second position. So definitely we'll continue that work forward. And then thirdly, I would say currently within the mandate letters, there are some indications of items that at this point we don't have full scope or clarity in what direction the government will be moving on those. Certainly there is a focus on tariffs currently, and here within Transit Police we're working closely with TransLink as well in terms of looking at the potential impacts of those within our organization. So we'll continue into 2025 to see, as we get more clarity, where we look to refocus those business plan 2025 priorities.
Great. Thank you.
Great, and certainly we'll take that as an important piece of our strategic plan as well when we start up that later in the year.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Can I get a motion to approve G? Thank you very much. All right. Public delegations, anything, Taryn? Nope. Then we get to go into the presentation from the TransLink Indigenous Relations Group, which we're very looking forward to. Welcome.
So my name is Alana Simmons. I'm from Hacklegate Village, which is in northern BC, kind of near Smithers, New Hazelton area. And I was born and raised here in Vancouver. I have been working in Indigenous relations for a number of years, probably about 18 years now. I've worked at places like BC Hydro, TC Energy, and I've been here at TransLink for about 4 years or so. Thank you. So here's just a few examples of how TransLink has worked with Transit Police over the years. I was able to be on the cover of one of the strategic plans with Constable Rattray and retired Sergeant Siskin. We had some cultural awareness training just last year, and Constable Hannah was there with some EOG members. TransLink wanted to get more pictures for a perspective, Indigenous people, and so did Transit Police, so we did that together. And down at the bottom here, we did a few years ago, it was a missing Indigenous woman and girl. There was a dance as well as an art exhibit that was up at Chinatown. So these are just a few examples. So today I'm going to give you a brief overview of Indigenous relations, how we can work together, some upcoming opportunities for engagement, and then some information on Indigenous recruitment, retention, and advancement, which I heard is of interest. So these are the 10 nations that we work with in Metro Vancouver. You might notice I don't have the
Can we mute this or something?
Are we able, sorry, whoever is on Zoom, would you be able to mute yourself? Thank you. Sorry, Alana.
So yeah, Kikite is in negotiation with BC and Canada to get reserve land, and we also have a really large urban Indigenous population. When I do show this map, I do like to say, like, Metro Vancouver is a large area, and the treaty and reserve lands make up less than 1% of the area. So these are some of the key initiatives. Some of them I'll go through in the presentation. We do have a vision and guiding principles that was passed a few years ago. We do quite a bit on cultural recognition. These projects, they do take a long time to come to fruition. It takes about a year even just to get a mural or up at like King George SkyTrain station. We have cultural awareness sessions. This year we're going to do reconciliation action plan. It's a lot of our work. We do about 50 to 60% is we work on engagement with the nation. So on BRT, on OC4, just on actual project work for and then we also, a big initiative with Sarah Ross's team is to plan transportation services on reserve for those who wish to have that service. So how do we do this? For, I guess, 3.5 to 4 years, there was 1 or 2 people within Indigenous relations. So we're really, really happy to have the support of the enterprise and increasing our team to 7. And the way that we organize ourselves is with the 10 nations, we have people assigned as the key contacts. So the nations and the urban Indigenous organizations know who to contact when they have questions. For working together, you know, I do think that TransLink and Transit Police work well together. We keep each other informed. I think there are probably areas where we can improve. And I know that one of the things I was just saying, we have a reconciliation report. So on the TransLink website, we have a report that kind of says what we've done within that year, and the equivalent to that is the strategic plan with all of the things that Transit Police have worked with Indigenous people. And this year, again, we're going to do the action plan, and that's something that we can all work on together, that we're more accountable to our actions and our commitments. So upcoming opportunities for engagement, I think for the First Nation Transportation Plan, which is bringing service to reserve land, we have had, I think it was Constable Rowntree who came with us to some meetings, so that's always a possibility. And this year we're going to do more engagement at different levels with the nation. So we want to have leader-to-leader meetings so that Kevin Quinn and Chief Muir, as well as my VP, Vanagan, and Sarah Ross as well. We have staff meetings regularly, like each and every week, there's usually a meeting with One Nation, and we do attend different community events. So how do we engage? We do have to be careful. Some of the nations, they have very limited staff. The actual First Nation community are, they have engagement fatigue. They have many different people asking for their time. And because of that, TransLink does provide them with capacity funding so that they have the opportunity to give meaningful feedback. And throughout all this, we're working with them to understand their interests and their priorities as it relates to regional transportation. So for the hiring and recruitment and retention, I have to say that this is something that we're going to work on this year. So we have in the past, we've gone to career fairs, I think the wellness kind of contract is coming up where we want to try to figure out how we can get more benefits for Indigenous employees. And I think that this is an area that we are at the beginning, so again, transit police and figure this out. So it's probably not what you expected, but it's one of our goals this year. We do have an elder circle, so we have 4 elders that we work with, 3 on a more regular basis. 2 are Cree, one is from Squamish Nation, the other one is from Tsleil-Waututh. And the different elders, they like to do different things, like one might like to do land acknowledgements and speaking sessions, while others will work with the Indigenous ERG, and others still would like to kind of get involved and give us guidance on what are our policies, how can they help us. I think this is my final slide for the employee resource group. This has been up and running for a few years. We have Indigenous employee-only meetings, and last year we have added allies. So we'll still have both types of meetings, and this was an example where we went to Kwantlen First Nation, and they did a cultural session with us, and it was really amazing. So this year, we're going to be releasing a calendar of events, and anybody can, for allies or Indigenous employees, they can join us. This was something that I attended last year. I was very happy to be invited. We raised the resident school survivors flag up on the festival for 5 years. Is there any questions?
Questions from the board? Yeah.
Wonderful presentation, and just a question, how many Indigenous employees do you have?
So we do have, I think it's about almost 3%, but I just want to say that it's from a very small sample, and the Indigenous employees have to feel comfortable self-identifying. So, and I do know that there are employees within Indigenous employees within transit police, but I don't think as a company we're yet tracking it on such an individual level.
Thanks, Alana, for your presentation. We really appreciate being here. I'm wondering about the connection between TransLink and the Transit Police in terms of the resources, the elder circle that you mentioned, how well the employee relations group is woven in. And I'm just wondering if you can make some comments about how well we're doing or how, where some issues may lie.
Oh, for the employee resource group?
Yeah, just in terms of that connection that, between TransLink and the Transit Police and the work that you're doing within TransLink. Is there a seamless connection, or how? I'm just trying to understand how it all comes together.
Yeah, if I can say, we have been working quite separately and keeping each other informed. And I think what we can do and what we can do better is to understand each other's work plans a lot more and figure out where we can work together. I mean, Transit Police has been doing a great job. They haven't really needed us. But if there is an opportunity where we can work closer, it's certainly something that we would like to.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Very informative. In relation to the your best estimate, what percentage of employees with TransLink and the Transit Police are Indigenous peoples?
I mean, I would say it's between 2 and 3%. We have done these sample surveys over a few years by EDI.
Right.
So just from those sample sizes, I would think it's between 2 to 3%, which is representative. Like I think within BC, it can be up to 6%. I think in Metro Vancouver, it is a bit lower for the data, and in Canada, I think it's almost 6%. So we are somewhat representative, but we're always trying to increase representation when and where we can.
So you're saying that the 2 to 3% represents the same proportion of Indigenous peoples that are in the larger population of Metro Vancouver?
Yes.
Right. What do you think your biggest challenge is going forward for 2025 in relation to fulfilling your role?
I think, we are doing a good job of bringing transportation to reserve land. So we have been working with 3 nations quite a lot, and 2 less regularly, and some we haven't worked on with them at all. And the only reason for that is the nation doesn't have the time or the opportunity to talk with us because they are so busy on their own initiatives and priorities. So we are going to launch some service in 2026 for some of the nations. And for that, we actually want all the nations to be invited to attend an opening. So this year, we're really focusing on the nations that maybe don't know a lot about the program and want to start that engagement. And then there's also challenges from our side on the actual resourcing that we have to engage at a deep level on for their transit services.
Are there, I guess sort of intuitively, I sort of feel like transportation is sort of a fundamental right of people, and I'm kind of surprised that we ask as opposed to simply bring transportation at least near the reserves. If it's going on the reserves, I understand the need for dialogue and making sure that everybody's on side. It seems to me bringing transit services near all the reserves kind of intuitively makes sense. So.
That is some of the things that we are trying. So for some nations, they actually want to do a lot of community engagement. So we've kind of provided them with different options on where service could be on the reserve. Usually on reserves, sometimes it's one way in and one way out. So there's not a lot of options that you can choose from. In other instances, like you said, we brought it closer to the reserve as a first step, and then we'll do more engagement with the community.
All right, thank you.
You mentioned you're going to focus on recruitment. Do you have a goal for that for this coming year?
Sorry, a goal for
recruitment? Yeah.
We're just, honestly, we're just at the very, very beginning. We have somebody assigned. HR has assigned people to help out. We have, kind of ideas of what we want. So we haven't yet set any metrics, right?
Okay. Right. See an opportunity to work closer with Transit Police on that specifically. Yeah. So always a concern for us, right, as well. Great.
I have one other question.
Sure.
Just, we've discussed, I think it's Corporal Henry, who's the replacement Indigenous liaison officer for the Transit Police, with Constable Rattray retiring. And I understand that Constable Rattray agrees to stay on a part-time basis, kind of bridge the transition. But one of the things we've discussed is that Corporal Hamid is not First Nation. And do you see that as being problematic?
I think Constable Hanif is very personal. I think you can kind of get to know him right away. He's very friendly, very respectful. These are all like good qualities, amazing qualities to have when you're working with the nation. I think we've been very lucky to have had, Cheryl Simpkin and Kurt Rattray to this point. But I don't see it as a problem. I think if Transit Police would like, we can go with Constable Hanif to different events. Work closely together. I'm sure he's done this for many years with many different communities. There probably are some things to learn, but again, that will come with time. So I don't see that as a problem.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, and just on a personal note, I just want to thank you so much for the connection and work that we've done together historically. And I think in conversations, we've looked at some additional opportunities that you presented today, and we really welcome that chance to become even closer. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Appreciate you coming. Great. All right. Next up is Chief Officer report.
Thank you so much. And it'll be coming up on the screen, but we just recently announced our inaugural Police Officer of the Year, really Professional of the Year. Unfortunately, they weren't able to be with us today, but really proud of these two individuals. So, Sonny Kemp, he's our neighborhood police liaison officer. He's just made incredible connections in community. When he's not in community, he's busy volunteering, doing all kinds of work, leading our social club, and just has been an outstanding ambassador for Transit Police, and really want to thank him for his contributions and certainly the award. And Kelly Steele, who's our Civilian Professional of the Year. And Kelly is one of those individuals working on our training unit and just delivering exceptional training for frontline members. I know some of the police board members, you were able to take part in the Indigenous experiential learning. Mm-hmm. She was instrumental in the background. And also of interest, very topical right now, is neurodivergent training. And we were just able to, through her planning assistance and other officers who actually have lived experience with their own children, we work with community to deliver that neurodiverse training as well. So two exceptional recipients, and congratulations to them both. The second item I just want to touch on briefly just relates to incidents involving lighters that appear to be replica firearms. So that was a trend that we were seeing across the Lower Mainland. We went out on social media to do some education piece about the public and the importance, and we continue to advocate with other agencies across the Lower Mainland if there's bylaws or otherwise. And the third is the JIC Justice Institute in British Columbia and funding related to that. So the provincial government had a campaign promise to commit funding towards the Justice Institute. As the third fastest growing agency in the Lower Mainland, I can't emphasize enough the importance of that funding. We feel quite confidently that if given the seats, we can fill them, but to continue our growth, that's required. We will have the budget on March 4th that will come, and we're very hopeful that funding towards the Justice Institute will form part of that. I will now turn it over to Deputy Randy Fincham in operations for an update.
Morning. Thanks, Chief. So a number of initiatives and events that took place this reporting period. The Taylor Swift concert, which everybody's aware of, so December 6th through 8th. We had our explosive detection teams out there, as well as a number of our operational uniform units. On the TransLink side, so there was 1.9 million trips in all modes of transportation between Friday and Sunday. So this is the largest transportation numbers that we've experienced in recent history, 516,000 on Sunday alone. And since Compass cards were introduced in 2017, this is the largest recorded customer base coming through Stadium Chinatown Station in recorded history. So significant number of increases, and we had a number of officers out there to match. And lots of work and preparation done with our policing partners in Vancouver Police as well to the enterprise. So lots of work to coordinate enterprise resources at these events as well, which has been beneficial in planning for Invictus, which is happening right now, and then planning for season with our enterprise policing partners coming up. So great work done there. Throughout December, a number of projects and operations. Inspector Jeff Connors here, his team's working in Richmond and Burnaby as well to target retail theft. So working with our policing partners to combat retail theft, where individuals are taking advantage of the transit system to take off with their stolen merchandise. Throughout this reporting period, so GIU extremely busy working two major sex assault investigations, one series between January and October of 2024. Now suspect was arrested in November, which was great to see. 4 counts of sexual assault charges reported to Crown Counsel for that one. And then a second event, which took place where in November 2024, charges were recommended against another individual for committing sexual assault on the transit system. So great work done there. Our crime suppression team, always busy, a lot of proactive enforcement projects throughout the system, working with our policing partners in Surrey, Delta, New West, and Vancouver, as well as North Vancouver RCMP. And CST in 2024 at 144 arrests. They seized 110 weapons, 31 of those were firearms, and a significant amount of drugs were seized. Our criminal intelligence unit, so since the last reporting period, have identified 20 persons of interest in 20 separate transit investigations, and they've supported outside agencies with identifying 16 persons of interest in outside agency files. And throughout 2024, there was 143 persons who were identified, and 48 of those were from outside agency investigations. So lots of work being done by our analysts to support police investigations throughout the Lower Mainland. Our 2 ILOs were involved in scenario training at the GIDC, which they commit to on a regular basis, as well as attending events in Musqueam and Semiahmoo First Nations. And 13 Blue Eagles events were held, and then 2 weekend events through this reporting period as well, so they were being very busy. In December, our CPP volunteers saw 506 volunteer hours. This is our largest contribution in volunteer hours that we've seen, and looking forward to working with the coordinator of that program to expand potentially that program at least. There's a significant demand for people who want to volunteer across the system and not just isolated to waterfront. So we're looking forward to working on that in the future. Our K9 unit, looking forward to co-hosting with Delta Police the 2025 Police K9 Association Detection Dog Seminar coming up in April. So we'll have teams coming to the Lower Mainland from across Western Canada. And like I said, this is in partnership with Delta Police. We're looking forward to that opportunity. We welcome Dexter, so our new police dog. So Dexter is now completed training and is now fully deployable. So Dexter's out on the line supporting our frontline officers. And as everybody's aware, that was in honor of Lynx Inspector Dexter Hubert. And our K9 units have been working very hard on a video with our enterprise partners. So this is to bring awareness and create protocols for suspicious packages across the system. Obviously, significant impact on the system. We had a system slow down, a system stop due to this package. And it's working with all of our partners to have a consistent approach to those, ensuring public safety and getting the system back up and running. Our community safety officer evaluation is underway, so it's gone out to our final vendor. We're just working for that final vendor to get that going. So we're looking forward to have that 3-year review completed. Our CSO Class 4, we're hoping to launch in the spring or fall of this year. We're looking forward to welcoming 8 to 10 new CSOs to the program and getting them up and trained. Our recruiting unit is working hard to gather those individuals and get the right candidates for those positions. Our OCC is working very hard to recruit new dispatchers, new call takers, and new operators. Lots of work being done in there. And our targeted mobile enforcement team, so they worked on a number of large-scale fare enforcement projects over the last reporting period, focusing on Scott Road, Surrey Central, Broadway, and Commercial, and these areas where we experienced higher levels of reported perceptions of public safety or concerns for public safety. So we continue to deploy our CSOs, our team members, and our operational resources in those areas. Over the holidays, Our TMET team took 24 impaired drivers off the roads in Metro Vancouver, working joint operations with Surrey, West Vancouver, North Vancouver, and Burnaby, working very closely with our partners. And throughout the holiday season, transit police participated in Light Up the Province. We were very fortunate to have one of our sergeants and TMET selected as the commander for the program. And throughout that initiative, which was having checks on all the Highway 1 main corridors, over 35,000 vehicles were checked, over 1,400 breathalyzer demands given, and 74 impaired drivers were taken off the road. And it's great to see our members involved in that. That's all I have.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Randy. And I think just the complexity of the work we're involved, the coordination of work throughout the Lower Mainland. So thank you for all the members involved. And we'll turn it over to Deputy Bryce Graham.
Can I just ask one quick question? The CSO evaluation, what's the timeline to have it complete?
Once we've signed final contracts with the final vendor, we expect 3 to 6 weeks for completion.
Okay.
And we expect that to initiate and start very soon once the contract's finished.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. Sorry, Bryce, go ahead.
Sure, I'll just touch on a few highlights. You do have the report in front of you if anybody has any questions. For facilities, everybody's aware that we've been working very hard to get a sub-office in the Metrotown area. We're able to negotiate a lease for an area right by the bus loop, and we found out just 2 days ago that our permits are granted through the city. So we were expecting that to be about a 6-month process, ended up being about 45 days. So quite excited that the permits were through. So we'll be going forward and looking for a general contractor in that one shortly. For recruiting, we managed to secure 6 seats for the January Police Academy class. So we had 6 recruit constables go into the class, and also at the beginning of the year, we hired on 3 experienced officers. On the training side, we recently completed some training with BCRTC, so SkyTrain, commonly known. So we did some combined training on SkyTrain, on a SkyTrain system, very specific to calls that we deal with and coordinated efforts on calls that we deal with SkyTrain. So very specific simulation training with SkyTrain itself. On our information management section, we're currently working with Court Services BC to go to electronic forms and files. So we're in the process of getting those completed, and that'll just help the process speed and technology. So currently working with different zones in court services in order to get electronic form approvals and processes in place. For our people in culture, we're preparing for 2025, which will be a morale survey year for us. So currently that process is underway. And for our IT section, we recently completed a service level agreement with TransLink IT, or Business Technology Solutions. And so the SLA, or the Service Allowance Agreement, will allow us to set level expectations, roles, and responsibilities for our internal IT team and shared services that are provided by TransLink's IT team. So a very significant document to get completed and updated.
And I'll just comment again, lots of work on the administrative side of the house, looking, from moving to civilianization to modernization and addressing different risk factors as well in that area. So thank you. Bryce and your team.
Questions for Bryce or Randy?
Going back to the question you raised with Chief Vincent, the CSO evaluation process, is the intention to interview outside of the organization as well, people like the PSML board and even possibly engage with the TransLink board as well?
Correct. So it'd be a combination of internal interviews as far as individuals associated with the program, benefits of the program in-house, as well as throughout the enterprise, and then police as well. Looking at some other programs that have been in place in the Lower Mainland with a similar deployment model as what we have with CSOs.
Right. The other thing I was going to ask is the perceptions of the broader traveling community, the transit community. Is that going to be an element of the work as well?
It will be. Bulk of that public consultation will come out of the surveys, the public surveys, and then adding that to future surveys to look at the deployment of the CSOs or how they're perceived in the public versus just specifically our police officers. So undetermined yet. We'll have to see what they can do as far as this one goes in their public consultation piece. I don't know how far they're going to get into the public consultation, but I'll get back to them.
I guess the third or fourth question is, how will the Metro Vancouver Transit Police Board be engaged?
We can certainly coordinate, so as we do interviews with our internal individuals, we will add our board members to that for consultation as well, provide input into that process. I believe when that program was initiated, and I know Oscar's going to have more information on that, when the program was created, there was a lot of work done between the board developing that program, and then we'll follow up on that process to make sure that program meets the needs and expectations that were outlined when this board developed that program or helped develop it.
And the reason I'm raising these questions is when the program was being contemplated and being designed, the intention was to not expand the services being delivered, but rather employ CSOs doing, I guess, what I'd call an element of the work that the constables that are part of the service undertake regularly. And so given that there's 24 of them approximately on the system at all times, one of the things I'd like to see the study, focus on is how do we ensure that CSOs are deployed effectively over time and the kinds of ratios that should be considered so that, the full benefit of, I guess, the tiering and policing would be recognized in our, going forward in our budget and in the way that services are delivered. So I share that to say that I think at times there's been some turnover on the board, and I think some of the current board members weren't here when we first started discussing it. But I think it is important for us to focus on using the CSO tier effectively in the context of not just doing the policing work that we're responsible for now, but doing the policing work that the expanded system will require as well. And that includes not just the two extensions that are going on right now with SkyTrain, but the future extensions of SkyTrain, like the contemplation of extending SkyTrain to UBC, but also the VRT system, which is kind of we haven't really discussed it as a board, but I think there's it's kind of somewhere between transit security and the Metro Vancouver Transit Fleet that securing those systems properly is going to be an important element of future work for the Metro Vancouver Transit Fleet as well. So I share that to say the report should at least reference that and in some respects make some recommendations around how that additional work should be handled, both with respect to the extensions, but more importantly, I think, with respect to how BRT should be handled from a security perspective.
No, I completely agree with you, and part of that is looking at the inception of the CSO program, the intention of CSOs at the time when it was developed with transit police and with support from the board, and then looking at a natural evolution, has that changed or does it meet our mandate, meet the mandate of the board moving through, and then what the future of that program looks like as we're just over a year and a half into that program. The trial, which would be set to technically end in June 2026, as we conduct this review now and look at the program and any developments through there and make sure it meets the needs of transit police support as well as the enterprise. A lot of work being done as well with the enterprise to align resources, whether it's our frontline security or transit security, our Canada Line attendants, our SkyTrain attendants, our CSOs, and transit police members, and aligning all of them in a tiered approach to look at how it fits all the enterprise and all those deployments. BRT is another one we're looking at as well to make sure that we have resources in place to support BRT and an expansion and then an associated number of CSO support members to support that. So I completely agree with what you said.
And I just want to reinforce the fact that the problem that organizations like ours often face is we introduce something as a pilot. It can't be counted on to be continuous. And so it tends to sort of be an added service while it's a pilot, but then transitioning it from a pilot into part of the permanent structure without the additional resources being seen as being added resources to do a broader range of services as opposed to added to undertake services within an expanded system. So I'm not sure if that makes sense to you, but that's where, from my perspective, it's important. And I know my dialogue with the chair of the TransLink board, she's very interested in making the pilot a permanent part of the system because she sees the advantages to it. And that's why I referenced earlier dialogue with the TransLink board as well, so that feedback from them can be incorporated in the outcomes of the study.
No, and there's significant value in the CSO program. We look forward to sharing that through the report. As well, the number of CSOs, we've had 7 CSOs transition to regular members within transit police. 2 have transitioned into police and outside agencies, Police Service. We had 1 go to Calgary. So not only is it a benefit in the work they're doing, we're developing loyalty within the organization and developing our own people who are transitioning into our organization as well. So we look forward to sharing all that in that report.
Thank you.
Thanks. Randy, I'm assuming like in the, when you guys are doing this review or study that the membership is going to be consulted heavily, like, because you got, you know, the two elements, you got the union and you've got the membership at large, so just kind of finding that sweet spot, like how they're finding it. Are they doing too much? Are they doing not enough? Like, do they have the right mix of duties complementing the regular members and the acceptance and all that? And then I just wondered if you can just comment generally, like how is that going? Like, are they being accepted? Is it one of those things that they're embracing it, or are you seeing friction, or what's your general sense of it?
It's interesting, having seen this program in other agencies as well. Initially, when the program was brought in, there may have been a little resistance as we're trying to develop what those individuals are going to do and what their benefits are going to be. And it's as we introduced the CSO program and as they took on more and more work and as it supported our members and as they increased visibility on the system, to have our members now look at taking those CSOs away from there where there's such a strong supportive role. And we integrated those with our patrol unit. So it's very conscious decision to deploy the CSOs with our sworn members to build that camaraderie within those teams. So they're part of that family, they're part of that team deployment. They're doing very unique work, separate work from what the police are doing for the majority of the time, but there is that overlapping work that they're doing. It'd be very hard to look at them now going back. They're very well accepted by our members, and as our supervisors and frontline NCOs and our staff sergeants watch the members have learned the value in the work they're doing, they're very supportive. Different squads use them in different manners, and part of this report is to look at a consistent approach and having a defining model of the work that they're actually doing as we learn through this 3-year trial period. So consulting with the frontline sworn members, supervisors, the union as you mentioned, TransLink enterprise partners, and then others involved in the CSO program, consulting all of them is going to be extremely important.
That's good. I really appreciate your comments because I sort of anticipated that. I mean, I know you've got a lot of history in other organizations, and another organization I'm somewhat familiar with. Like, that was the experience there as well, that when it first came in, everybody was sort of a little bit nervous about it. What's this going to be? Changing management's hard. But once it's embedded, it's like, don't you dare take these away. We don't want, we love them, we want more of them. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's an interesting shift to watch. It's, you know, they've earned their way to watch the CSOs come to our organization and prove their work and what they're doing in communications and, you know, frontline response and public safety, perception safety, visibility in the system. They're doing phenomenal work.
Thanks.
I'd add one quick comment, if I may, that there was nothing that said that the pilot program had to be 3 years. We set it at 3 years because we felt it would take that long for us to undertake a reasonable assessment of the efficacy of the program. But if the report's done and it comes back and says, really, it's working, we should be converting them now, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if that's what the outcome was. So I share that to say the pilot really is more one to test and to confirm that it will work, and then convert so that if it's working, we take advantage of the opportunity that much earlier.
Certainly. Yeah, we've certainly seen and I'll turn over to the chief, we've made the assumptions internally how beneficial this has been to us as the public. And we're looking forward to a third party coming in and validating what we've seen with other individuals who they're going to consult with. So we're looking forward to that.
Just a question. Has there been any noted scope creep from the CSOs towards doing additional duties that would be in line with frontline police officers? And if so, if not, do you have a mechanism in place to make sure that they are performing their duties as required, but trying to not get into scope creep?
Yeah, I think scope creep's natural as we try and find that equilibrium of what they're doing, whether it's, you know, evidence collection or what that may be, supporting on investigations, as we process video, as we gather large groups of people for interviews and crime scenes. Our CSOs are always eager to jump in and support our members. And it's looking at that that balance of what they can do, what they can't do. To prevent scope creep, a lot of that is work that's being done with Stephen Seaman with officers as far as policy procedure. So as we grow, it's making sure that we have a policy that keeps up with that to align what's happening with what is allowed to happen within our investigation. A lot of that work being done currently, as we consult government and we consult others, including the board.
Yeah, and just in response to that, that's in part why we've included the 2 training days a year now, CSOs, just to ensure that they're, you know, clear on the responsibilities, and we continue that training opportunity. What I'll comment on as well, and just in terms of when we do select the consulting firm, similar to the community safety survey, the board will be engaged around the scope of the project, TSML directors as well. So those updates will come as we progress, and that input will continue to be received. So thank you for those initial comments.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the comments about training. I'm wondering, you mentioned that there's a new neurodivergent training that the members are participating in. Are the CSOs, is that something that they get access to? I mean, there's some great trainings out there, and it would seem very appropriate.
Yeah, they'll also receive training. It doesn't make it for this reporting period, but you'll end up seeing it in the next one, as it's actually ongoing right now.
Yeah, it's good to hear about that. I had a different question, totally different topic about Taylor Swift. I really appreciated hearing the stat. I was not there, but that was 3 days in December. I mean, everything was like, do not go into Vancouver, because it was something that we hadn't seen before, I think, anyway, quite unprecedented. So I appreciate hearing those numbers, and just the toll in terms of the system, in terms of transit and public safety policing, I imagine. And I know there's great economic, benefits of these 3 days in December, these great series of concerts, but there's a cost, and I'm wondering if we have a sense of the cost, and how are some of those recouped? We talk about Invictus now, and then also we're preparing for FIFA, but how, what are those costs to us that don't get recouped, and how do we manage that?
Yeah, certainly, and there indeed is a cost. So for the 3 nights, it was $110,000 in overtime that was incurred for, ensuring safety in deploying out and around the system. So, from the budget perspective, we do look to project those into our 25 and budget numbers. But, what we've seen, not just here in the Lower Mainland, but certainly for transit police, other police agencies, increased number of events, whether it be protests or other occurrences, and, we react, and we ensure resources are in place to respond when required.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
Follow up to Carla's question, it's out of order for this meeting, but did DPD get any recovery from the concerts, extra costs that the DPD incurred in terms of providing security to those concerts?
Yeah, we put the numbers up publicly. So cost us just under $1 million. We got about half of that back from the promoters. Is that right? And so the economic impact, let me just put it this way, Mark. So you're saying that it cost you just over $100K. The economic impact of the city was $157 million. So the economic return is over 1,000 times more than what it costs you guys to do that. Over 1,000 times more. It's just minuscule, the cost compared to the economic benefit.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I guess what I'm wondering is, if you were able to make a recovery, did we attempt to make a recovery?
But that's a recovery, yeah.
I can comment. So we have about $7,500 in recovery from a partnering police agency. We've provided resources to that police agency, so we've got that money back as well. One very unique in our world is that we work with an enterprise that's financially driven in the fact that we increase ridership. So you had 55,000 people for each night of the concert, plus you had a hockey game on 2 of those nights. And then we've increased ridership across the system. So if you look at the numbers of increased ridership, and if you average it out to, say, $3 per rider who's not a Compass card holding resident who's from a local municipality, that's additional revenue to translate throughout that event and throughout that weekend. So when you look at the cost, although there was a cost to police that event, having all these individuals come in and having that, the regional economic increase of 1.5 or 1.7, billion or whatever the value was that came in, there's also that increased ridership revenue that offsets within the enterprise. So we will look at that offset to support our resources and look at whether we deploy in the future and attribute that to those numbers as well. So we think a lot of the 55,000 individuals, over half of them are from out of town. It's very unique. And that's unique riders, that's unique trips, that's unique spending throughout the region as well as the city, and then on the transit system.
Mario, just need some more context, because we host a lot of these big events in Vancouver, obviously. So think of it almost like a donut. So if you've got like a major event happening at BC Place, Canada Place, Rogers Arena, whatever it is,
The promoters will pay for all the security in the actual venue, because that's where the concert's happening. It could be in anything, like from Olympics to FIFA, to Taylor Swift, to the Stanley Cup playoffs, whatever it is. They'll pay for that, they'll pay for right around the surrounding area, like in the larger venue. But as you start that, concentric circles start going out, like, BC Place may be here, but the gravel strip over here, which is where you're gonna have a lot of issues with bars and nightclubs and transit and everything else, they're not paying for that. So you, as the city that's hosting it, have to realize that you're gonna take on a lot of those costs that are happening in the peripheral areas, and it's not even realistic for Taylor Swift to be paying for all the, deployments over here on Granville Street or for other places. So they'll pay for the intense area, but not everything else.
And I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the fact that there's revenues coming in.
Yeah.
The missing link for me is that in some respects, maybe sophistication in budgeting is necessary, but almost anticipating some of these big events that aren't necessarily part of a community structure where we're trying to figure out how to fund them.
Yeah.
But including them as a line item in our budget.
Yeah.
Under overtime, that's separate from our overtime budget that, falls more under the day-to-day, business of policing. So that we are recognizing it, and that TransLink recognizes it when we put our budgets forward. Because when the budget number for overtime goes over, it looks like we're not managing it. And in fact, it's sometimes, as a result of us not being sufficiently sophisticated in identifying where overtime needs to be used. It's not just in regular day-to-day policing, it's in fact for these events. So I'm not saying that we should do anything right now, but it seems to me that some sophistication around overtime use might be not a bad idea in terms of our budget's more robust.
I've got to say though on that, like,
That's a pretty basic construct in police budgeting.
and I would be shocked if you guys don't already do that. I think every police agency.
Yeah, and
does
I think the police board, we had a presentation, so it is an area where we've actually dedicated a resource now to do some of this event planning, so it is contained within our budget. As different events arise though, they're unforeseen, and that's why we incorporated a safety fund as well into our budget. So something that is included, and we look as we progress to, define that even closer.
Well, I get concerned because, this year we've done well on our budget, it seems, but some years we've been over. And most years, maybe not most years, some years we're also over in our overtime. But it's not so much for our edification, it's more for our funders' edification, TransLink, knowing what we're doing with the money. And overtime, without having a sophistication of understanding how we're using it, sometimes can be seen as being wasteful as opposed to essential, because we're doing things that go beyond what I call the fundamental functions that policing really represent. So that's why I'm raising it. So.
Yeah, and ensuring the safety of the transit system is our priority and focus.
Thank you.
So Suzanne, we have a big budget in Mississippi for the province, and we have internal order numbers for any major project. So whether it's FIFA, whether it's Invictus, whether it's homicide, we all have there's an internal order number that's given right away, and that's why. So the province asked us for a question about our finances, how we spending our money on the provincial business line or the municipal business line with our contracting partners. We can itemize it very, very quickly because we put IOs. I'm sure you have something like that in your financial landscape. So, and that's where, a quick query, no, this is what we spend on Invictus. And then there's subcategories as well. So whether it's overtime or, source information, not source information, but source payment, anything like that, travel, you can easily articulate it. And it's really at your fingertips.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and, it's exactly that allowed us to pull the Taylor Swift overtime numbers so quickly.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Final words, Chief?
No, I want to just recognize and thank Lana again. I think that was a really informative presentation, and again, I'll reemphasize, we look forward to working in collaboration. And finally, you know, just around, again, I'll reference back, you know, the Chief Officer report and the amount of work that's happening within organizations in collaboration with communities, and just really proud of our team and organization. And we thank the board for your continued support.
Thank you both. Are on. Look at that. All right. So we're moving on to report from Governance and Community Engagement Committee, and George is away today, so I think they're stepping in to do a summary as well.
So the Governance and Community Engagement Committee met on January 20th, and a pretty fulsome agenda. I'll just go over some of the highlights. The committee terms of reference are being reviewed in view of the recent name change to the committee to add community engagement as an element. I guess it was always an element, but it's a little more definitive when it's in the planning of the committee. And so there's work going on right now amongst the committee members to provide comments back to George in relation to how the terms of reference should be amended to better reflect the community engagement element of that community work. Reconciliation was another discussion item. Land acknowledgement training is recognized as being needed. Christina raised the fact that sometimes we're a little bit too generic in the way that we address our obligations around, maybe our opportunities around recognizing the First Nations lands that we conduct our business on. And so we need to revisit how we address our position with respect to being guests on this land is an important part of our reconciliation efforts. There was discussion regarding recruiting, the need to increase Indigenous people in the RBTC. And we also talked about the current ILO, but understood that Constable Rathray would be staying on a part-time basis to assist with the transition from him being the ILO to Corporal being the ILO. And I was pleased actually to hear from Alana today that it isn't as strong a concern as I thought it might be for Corporal and these different First Nations. So that was good news. I'm also pleased that the recruiting efforts around increasing the percentage of Indigenous people within the TransLink structure and within the Metro Vancouver Transit Fleet structure is continuing effort. I think that's something that we should keep our ears to the rail on. And I think the regular meeting, that covers what was discussed, and I'll have more to say in detail.
Okay. Any questions? Governance? All right. Next item is the BCAPB conference, which is coming up in May 7th to 9th, local this year, which is great. It's in Delta. So what we're looking for, hopefully many of us can go to it. So we need to determine who is going to go and get that registration approved. And there's also a request to sponsor as well. And in the past, it could be sponsored. Karen?
Yeah, we've done lunches, coffee.
Yeah, so, yeah, that would also be up for discussion to continue that sponsorship as well. So, do we have an idea from board members here if they're able to attend right now, or do we need to, we can do a kind of a blanket motion and then lock down the attendees, right? Yeah. Sir?
So you need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion.
So I'll move that the board approve attendance of board members from the MVTC board based on availability and willingness to attend.
Right, okay. So does everyone just want to tell Taryn then if they can go? I know I can go.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, at least for part of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if you can let me know, there's an early bird rate if you register before February.
Okay, so we should do that.
The next that would be great.
Yeah, Okay, you can put me down for sure. Okay.
Just on that one, I would say that the ones that are held on the Lower Mainland, because this organization is based on the Lower Mainland, it'd be good to just open it up to everyone on the board if they're gonna know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no travel
There's no
involved.
travel cost, yeah.
And I was gonna ask, are we gonna talk about resolutions, or how do you wanna play that?
Sorry?
It says AGM and call for resolutions.
Okay. Right, okay, sorry. Okay,
I don't
so we
know.
do need to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I think, is it March 15th is the deadline, I think?
Is that the deadline?
There, but sounds right,
We should probably, I don't know, is that something, Suzanne, you were thinking, like, discussing in camera, or brainstorming with the board, or something like that?
Yeah, I think in camera would be the best,
Okay.
opportunity.
For resolution, okay. All right, so attendance and then sponsorship is the other one, so do you have any objection to sponsoring, lunch again?
You're good with the lunch?
Yeah, okay. So motion for that too, I guess, or included in the same motion of, yeah. Okay, great, all right, so everyone let Taryn know in the next week or so if they can attend, 7th to 9th, but let's all make an effort to be there as it's local. Okay. All right, I think that concludes, other business. Is there anything else? I have one final item. So, final thing, to congratulate Director Levy on her retirement from the RCMP. Retire off this board, which we're very disappointed about, but she has some great experience. She served across Canada and overseas and Iraq, and amazing stories, and we've benefited from her awesome experience. So, thank you, Maureen, we're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss you. Oh, yeah. Well, there you. Oh, my Lord. We better take a picture.
Oh, it's done. You're with your color coordinator, you color coordinator.
What do you want?
I'm impressed by the, yeah. Sorry, that's all.
The board comments,
Oh, that's
I just want to thank you for your dedicated service to law enforcement, all your work and commitment on the board, in friendship to so many. You will definitely, thank you so much.
Yeah, you want me to change the screen?
Yeah, it's good, that's great. Oh, better backdrop, we'll get you a better backdrop. Thanks, Karen. Okay. No.
Yeah.
Oh, you do yours first, and then you jump on your phone. You got it. Okay, I got a bunch.
Thanks.
Randy.
Yes.
Sure.
Before Maureen says anything, I'd like to, on behalf of George, also thank Maureen for the service that she's provided to the Governance and Community Engagement Committee. It's been very important, and her experience is always evident in the comments she's made. And I congratulate you on behalf of the committee on retirement, and look forward to future board work that you become engaged with, because you're well qualified, and any board that receives you as a member will be well served. So thank you for your service on the committee as well.
Then I'm gonna kill you later. This has been such a privilege for me to sit on the board. I've learned so much. This is my first board, and hopefully it's not my last. But I learned so much from each and every one of you. And I can attest to the professionalism, the dedication, the sense of decency, the sense of belonging. Made it possible for me to be comfortable here. Because I was a bit overwhelmed, when I was gonna sit on the board. I've never sat on the board before, because I, truly, we don't do that an awful lot in our city. this is where I've been, but, I'll cherish it. I'd love to come back to pitch for me, but I know it goes with the position, and, I've sat on a lot of committees in my 37-year career, and I can't think of find one. The guidance, and just how we all treat each other. And it's, I need those as people for my team. And, it's taken a village to raise me. Beginnings in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And, so much better for a better person for this happening. I don't want to start crying because then I might not stop. I'm just humbled and at the bottom of my heart. How kind and decent you've been. I'm grateful to each and everyone who does for the transit. And I've learned so much, and what I've learned here, I've taken away when I was running a man district, Adam, and everybody here has helped me. I will not call myself a leader because that's someone else call me that. But what I've learned here, I've taken back to the RCMP and implemented quite a few things from what I've learned here. So it's certainly give and take, and my heart's yours. Just thank you so much. Thank you.
So we will close out public meeting, 9:05. Great, thanks, everyone. Next meeting is April the 9th. All right, so 15-minute break, and